Today I'm going to show you how you find life in the dry. G'day and welcome to another episode of Naylor's Boomerang Adventures. And today I'm going to be going out into the bush with basically a focus of finding life and interesting things in the dry times. So it's coming into the end of summer, which is when it gets very dry around here. And it can start to look quite bleak, but if you focus on the small things that are around you, it's amazing what you can find. Now I'm going to start by picking saltbush seed in a saltbush paddock. I find little animals along the way there, and then I'm going to cut straight to walking back to my old creek and seeing what I can find there. And I've come across a dam that's got a bit of water in the bottom. So stay tuned to see that. And also I'm still encouraging everyone to send me in some photos of things that they found on Facebook, or perhaps a short video, and you'll be going in for a competition. I'll basically choose the best video or photo for that competition, and I'll sort of highlight it on next week's show. Welcome to any new subscribers, and please subscribe yourself if you haven't already, and give me a big thumbs up, and also click on your notifications too, and then we can get straight into the video, and I'll talk to you at the end of the show. This is a old man saltbush plant here. This is a female. They come in male and female plants. They're not a plant that has both male and female components in the one plant. They're actually separated out into male and female, same as humans. And so the seed at this time of year just strips off the plant really nicely. And it's rained a few days ago, but it's dried out properly now. And so I just sort of pull it down and straight into the bucket like that. And pretty quickly you can get a few kilos and start filling up a bag. And there you go. So, having a look there. So it's that's the husk is what you can see. See there somewhere. That's the husk, and inside there is a seed about the size. Basically, probably not much bigger than a pinhead, and that's got to be nice and plump, nice and round, not flat. Much the same as a tomato plant or a tomato seed. If you're going to grow a tomato, good tomato, you've got to have a nice plump seed to start with. That gives your plant a good head start. So I picked this seed for a friend of mine who's got a nursery, and they plant millions of old man saltbush in every year. And now there's big demand again for old man saltbush because of the drought that we just went through. It's quite a drought tolerant, I wouldn't say drought proof. Nothing's really drought proof. If it's in a permanent drought, it all dies. But this stuff will last very well in a drought for a long time. And it's basically it's a good sheep feed. So sheep probably don't really get fat on it, or most breeds don't get fat on it, but it will get them through, and you can feed them a bit of supplementary feed like a bit of hay or barley or some other grain, and they do really well on both of them. So it's a lifesaver for a lot of farms if you've got enough acreage in. And So I'm picking seed for that into that business basically. So these seeds will be turned into little speedlings, and they'll get planted out by machine in their millions across the country. So that's my end of it, and it's quite fun. I like it. I like this end because once I pick enough seed, I'll start seeing little animals come to the top of the seed to get away from the bottom of it, and usually in the form of spiders and praying mantises. So hopefully we can see a few of those today. I'll get back picking and see what little animals we can find. Well, we're not the only ones out here. It's kangaroo manure. So it's not disgusting, this crap, it's just grass really. It's been wet and re-dried and a few less nutrients in it now. So yeah, a lot of, it's like horse manure. Carrying her egg sac underneath her, so those eggs haven't hatched yet. They'll be developing tiny little spiders inside that sac, and that sac is basically a capsule that she carries around and protects. She doesn't leave it behind. Some spiders carry their young, well actually a lot of them carry their young and also carry the egg sac, and she'll quite quickly they'll hatch, and what they do is they crawl onto her back and onto her abdomen, and then she'll travel around with these tiny little spiders, a good probably 100 or more on her back, and as they get bigger, as they run out of room, and they'll just jump off and fend for themselves. It got a bit windy to hear me just here, but I was just saying how amazing it is that an animal like a wolf spider, as seemingly nasty as it is, can have such a nurturing edge to her. This creek that I really like coming to actually isn't in its natural form. This has been dredged out many years ago because it was getting too flooded all the time and salting up the surrounding land, so they dredged it and let the water come through a bit quicker. But it's still a great waterway for me to come along, and even now when it's dry, I think it looks great. Whew. That's stinkwort. This stuff, quite a nice pretty lilac coloured flower, but it's appropriately called stinkwort, and it's really pungent. Like you could say it's a herb that's probably poisonous, which is why we don't eat it, but it's stronger than lavender, that smell. Incredible. Alright, I'm just nutting out what I'm going to do with this little dam. This dam actually comes off the creek, and it usually outlasts the running of the creek, and that's what's happened here. There's a heap of little minnows. I'm going to see if I can catch one and show you what they look like. They're quite pretty up close. They don't look like anything from a distance, but when they're up close, they're beautiful little fish. So I'm going to get a plank, and because the mud is quite stinking, and then I'll scare them over to that plank and then scoop one up for you. So after putting the log in, I tried a few methods of scaring the fish over towards it so I could reach them, but none of them seemed to be working. I think they were just hiding in the weed on me. I couldn't coax them over, so it didn't seem to matter how stupid a method I used or how scary I looked. It really didn't make any difference. So I gave up after a couple of minutes of that and had a bit of a try to see what I could scoop out, and I didn't get anything there either. So after nearly falling in a couple of times, I thought that maybe I should give it a rest and come back tomorrow and come back with a net and a bucket and do a proper job of it. So that's exactly what I did. Alright, day 2 of this, and I've brought a net this time. I've got a, it's actually technically a butterfly net, but it'll catch fish just as good. The little gaps between the fibres could be a bit wider, but I'll manage. And I've got my bucket, and I'll put them in the bucket and see what they look like. Oh, they're fast. They actually jump out of the water. Oh, I've got heaps in there already. I think they hide in this weed. Right. Alright, look at that. How many there are? There's actually all sorts of creatures. Okay, let's have a look at what we've got. Well, there's a beautiful little fish. They look like they're all the same type. Maybe not. There's a slender one in there and a fatter type. They really jump, like they really flick themselves up high. So I'm guessing if you were a fisherman, your mouth would be watering thinking they'd be great bait. They'd probably make good live bait because they flick so well. There's other things in there though. There's what's called water boats, those little creatures there. I think they're what's called water boats. And there's also a snail. That's called a fluke snail, that one, because they're actually a host for liver fluke for sheep and possibly for cattle, I'm not sure, but these things are important for the life cycle of a liver fluke. And there'll be any number of other. Oh, there's something interesting. That there is a damselfly larvae. It's similar to a dragonfly larvae, but it's just smaller. And these are ferocious little animals, so they would probably eat the smaller fish that are in that water. They can actually catch them and eat them. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, it's good fun. I'll just get a bit of this weed out of here and have another look in the bucket and see all the little creatures that are in that water. And I only ran it through a couple of times, that net, and there's so much life in there. Amazing. Well, I'll let them go because there's no point me holding on to them. It'll probably provide food for some larger animal because If we don't get a rain in a couple of days, this will all dry up, and in the remaining puddle there'll be a bird that this feeds. Yeah, there we go, that was nice. So don't ever walk past something like that. It might look lifeless and it might look a bit, you know, like there's nothing there, but if you see the little splashes, it is teeming with life. So it's a good lesson that life can get pretty much anywhere in an isolated, ugly looking dam like that. It can provide you with quite a few little surprises. So all you need is a net or a sieve and you can have yourself a bit of fun. Well, thanks for watching. Don't forget to look me up on Facebook and Instagram. Enter the competition if you like, and I'll catch you on next week's episode.